More and more younger family members who come out of family businesses are coming to the conclusion that working in their family business is actually a really great opportunity. That they have not only the opportunity to perhaps have roles and contribute in ways that they may not have gotten in an organization where they're just another employee number in a really large company, but also that then they get the extra bonus of being able to work side by side with their parents or their siblings or their cousins. So the a lot of younger folks are seeing it as a really attractive career path in ways that maybe 10 years ago, again, if you think about what we're told about what success looks like and things like that, that idea of going to work for the big multinational public company and the cachet and so on and so forth that comes with those sorts of jobs, or starting things up yourself and the scrappiness and so on and so forth that comes with that. The working in the family business, I think, is becoming more and more attractive. And, as relates to the innovation, that's one of those places where when we're trying to build bridges between the founders and the leaders of today and the leaders and contributors of tomorrow, where innovation is a place where younger folks can really contribute.
Welcome back to another episode here on the Hart and Hustle podcast. We got Kristi, and she didn't grow up with a silver spoon. First in her fam to go to college, thought she'd be an engineer, and now she's actually the CEO of one of the most respected family business consultancies in the world. Wild, right? Kristi, how did we get here? You wanted to be an engineer, and now you're a CEO. Like, what's going on?
Thank you. Yeah, it's been an interesting journey, to be sure. So a little bit about me as a human being. I grew up outside Detroit with my parents and my younger brother. And I think when I was growing up close to the auto industry, the engineering pathway was a really common way for people to go. And I was attracted to problem solving and analyzing things and so on and so forth. It felt like a great fit. And as I went into engineering school, I just sort of realized that the kinds of problems I wanted to solve were bigger. And the work of my schooling wasn't really calling to me. So ultimately I ended up pivoting to study business. I managed to meet my husband during undergrad. We got married. We moved to Chicago. And I live there now. And over the course of my career, I've been involved in a lot of activities around solving problems for business. And the stickiest and most interesting kind of problems that I've been attracted to over time are the ways that you get people to be effective in business and how those two things interact. So in my early career, I started working in HR. I did some employee engagement projects, did some recruiting, training, those sorts of things. And in 2008, I pivoted like many people did and ended up working as an independent consultant and executive coach. And in all of those things, it was all about helping business be more successful in communicating with and engaging with people. And just before where I am now, the last executive role I had before this firm was with a family-owned business in e-commerce. And that was my first real opportunity working in a family-owned business. And if you're interested in the challenges of people and business together, there is no better crucible, no better place to solve those problems than in family-owned businesses. And I really began to understand the value and the specialness of families who were living their values through their work, through their business, and how those businesses contributed to their employees and their communities. And ultimately, that led me to an opportunity to work with the firm I'm at now, which has been around for 30 years, working solely with family-owned businesses. So now, as a person, I'm outside Chicago. I've been the president and CEO of the Family Business Consulting Group for 5 years now, and I have a husband and 2 teenage kids and 2 big crazy dogs, and every day is an adventure.
I love it. I love it. You seem so excited to be here, and I'm excited to actually have you and to learn more about what you guys are actually doing at the organization that you're at. But I really kind of want to go backwards because you weren't always in the boardroom, right? You didn't always aspire to be here, and we always come with a past wherever we come from, whatever that organization was, whatever that our past life was. What leadership do you bring 5 years ago to this organization that has really propelled it to be what it is today?
Oh, well, that's a fantastic and very kind question. I think as I've gone through my career, I've always believed that no matter what role you have an opportunity to lead. I'm a big believer in leadership from every seat. When I'm working on teams, I hope that other people will feel the same way. Like we all have control and influence over a certain piece of the business that we touch, and we all have an ability to contribute positively to the relationships with the people around us, to the vision of the company, to understanding how we serve our clients better. So I think what I most bring in terms of leadership is just a sense of ownership of all the things that we can do to be successful as a team and as a company, and the ability for every member of the team to play a role in that way. I would say the other thing that feels really important to me is listening. In my role now, I'm often interacting with families that we serve and other people out in the marketplace, business owners who are looking to solve problems, our team members, colleagues, vendors, all kinds of stakeholders. I think listening is such an incredible leadership need to be able to collect information, understand the people who are involved, how they can best contribute, recognize patterns that can help you think about new ways to serve client needs, those sorts of things. And so I grew up within the company a little bit. I was here for 7 years before stepping into the leadership role. And I think that's one of the things that I continually did was sort of, listen, engage with people, understand, and then see how we can apply that to being better as a team.
That's funny. My next question to you was really going to be what, after wearing so many hats, such as not AR, what the hell am I talking about? HR, communications, and coaching. What was the thread that connected them? But I really feel is what you said, which was listening. Because in all those right roles, you have to really listen to what the problem is to give them a solution, whether it was in the HR seat, whether you're communicating, you're trying to figure out how to help, right? And especially in this case, or if it's coaching, you still got to listen to what it is that they're struggling with, so I can coach them through it. Do you say that's what threads them all together? Was that listening piece?
Yeah, I think so. And you use the word solution, which I find really interesting, because I think, now in a consulting firm, solutions are one of those things that you sell, you talk about like what we can do for you. But frequently what we're really trying to do is pull together all the wisdom of all the parties and find the win-wins. So as I think back to like my early career, in dealing with people, things like in HR and employee engagement, I think what I was always trying to figure out is how do I help the employee win and how do I help the organization win? Or if we are looking to recruit for someone, what is it the organization wants and what is it that the individual wants and how do we make that a win-win? And so I think the more wins you can create for the more people and the more stakeholders, the more shared success that you have. So for me, it's always, I think it goes back to that problem solving. The listening allows you to understand what people want, what they want out of their careers, what they want out of their engagement with you, what problem they're trying to solve, and then finding those win-wins and helping them take advantage of those has probably been a big piece of it too.
I love it. I want to go ahead and bust this myth. I can imagine that you can help us with this. Why do people really sleep on family businesses when they literally drive the U.S. economy?
Yeah, it's a great question. So family-owned businesses, I mean, a lot of people are surprised to find out that the vast majority of businesses in the United States and around the world are family-owned. I think a lot of people think about family business in terms of, the mom and pop own the restaurant around the corner from you and they're the cornerstone of a community. But a lot of people have a sort of a smaller business view of family business, or unfortunately, in some ways on the other end, they have the vision in their head of things like the television show Succession, where it's like high drama and wealth and things like that. But in reality, it's between 80 and 90% of businesses in the United States are family owned. It includes manufacturing, agriculture, real estate, all kinds of different kinds of businesses, transportation. It's sort of the heartbeat of the economy. All of the traditional pieces that make our society work and that provide so much employment for our communities is in family-owned businesses. And a lot of people aren't aware of that. If you read the newspapers and watch the, sort of the business commentary on the news, you're going to hear about, your Facebooks and Googles and, big public companies like who have an outsized sort of share of the attention and the marketplace. But in terms of our overall economy, they're a smaller portion of our shared success. And so that's part of what we're trying to do as a firm, is to talk to more people and help them understand how family businesses help their communities thrive, provide great employment opportunities, and really help to drive us forward as an economy.
What do you think is that one unexpected superpower that these families have that most outsiders probably would never see?
Yeah. So it's interesting. There are studies that show that family-owned businesses will outperform their competitors financially. And there's I would say there's two primary things that contribute to that. It really has to do with the family ownership and why the family owns the business. But there's two things that are distinct about families and how they make decisions that I think contribute to that. One is that they are very values driven. So family-owned businesses are more likely to, to give their employees better benefits, to really see their employees as part of the family and include them in the shared success of the company. They're going to make decisions that maybe a public company or, where that would be against, if you were only making the decision for short-term financial gain, that you would not make, because it aligns with who they want to be as business owners and as leaders in their community. And those things tend to create long-term value for the company. We hear about it nowadays when people are talking about, like ESG and this more holistic view of success, right? That by investing in things that create long-term success for the world, that it creates enterprise value. And family businesses really do that intuitively because they believe so deeply in the things, the values that created the business and that have guided the business for so many years. And the other thing that I think family businesses do that is unique is they take a longer term approach to decision making, something we sometimes call patient capital. So they're willing to make an investment in something that they're not really going to see the payoff for 10 years or 20 years in ways that other companies would not. And so again, that creates more stability and long-term growth. They're very relational in nature. They're going to build stronger, they have the ability to build stronger client relationships and vendor relationships because they're taking that very long-term view, which may not pay off this quarter, but tends to pay off in the generations to come.
Yeah. I actually totally forgot that I used to work for a family-owned business.
Oh, really?
And they were it was a franchise, right? But they owned maybe when I was with them, 140 something locations, right? They had a lot of locations. Mm-hmm. But at some point, what really sparked it was you said they usually have this mission, this value. I think at some point, this small business was to me, no longer a family business, not a small business, a family business. Yeah. And I say that because once Dad left the CEO presidency and then put somebody else that wasn't family, I believe it really changed the foundation of what it looked like. And I don't know if it ever went back, but I knew I was already out at that moment because what felt like family-owned business, and I did feel the love and the care and how I can talk to, Dad, CEO, I can talk to the son, I can talk to, it just wasn't like that anymore. Do you see that happen with some of these businesses? Do you hear some of these same stories a lot of the times?
Yeah, that's so interesting. I think that you're hitting on one of the reasons that families work with people like us is, generational transition. I don't know the reason that the family that you were working for made a transition to a new CEO, but often, the founder or the second generation or the third generation, whoever's in that seat, who has been the steward of the culture and the values and the representation for the family name for years and years and years, like, they're not going to be there forever. They need to have a plan for the next generation. And for families who want to do that in a way that allows for the business to continue to grow and succeed and to continue to live according to the family's values and what the legacy that they've built through the business over years and years and years, that takes some work. And it's not as simple as just hiring somebody who's a great CEO to step into the next role or the next, CFO or whatever that is. It's not necessarily just finding a great executive. It's creating an environment where that person is going to be supported, where the culture is going to continue to live through that individual and others. It's making sure that everybody that you select is aligned with the family's values. The values are really clearly articulated, that like people know what it looks and feels like when you're walking around, the shop, so to speak, and
Yeah.
you feel that family vibe. And oftentimes that's what keeps families from really it oftentimes succession planning in family businesses is delayed in part because they don't know how to do that well. Like they feel like, okay, this next person, whoever they are, maybe I don't know who from my family is the next right leader. Maybe I'm not sure there is someone in the family who's the next right leader. And maybe I don't really trust that someone who comes in here is going to do it with the same level of care and commitment that I have. And so it just keeps getting pushed off and pushed off. And that ends up putting everything at risk because, unforeseen things happen and eventually someone else is going to have to lead the enterprise. So it's that thoughtfulness about wanting to continue in that way that sometimes motivates people to start a process of doing that thoughtfully.
If the Heart and Hustle podcast has ever sparked any idea or made you think differently, do us a favor. Make sure you guys share this, post it on LinkedIn, or even text that nonprofit friend that you just have. Whatever works, this is what keeps the conversation going and allows us to just grow this community together. Seriously, we appreciate you. So good. I'm happy that I brought that up because you don't know. That's why I kind of left the place, and I'm happy that I was able to move past it. And I'll tell you exactly why. The CEO at the time, she used to be HR for 20-some years, and then that's what she knew, okay? I don't think she was the right person to be president, in my honest opinion. And listen, I think I know business quite well. So whatever, especially I know a great leader. She told me when I walked into her office, and this is after spending about already 7-8 years within the company, and I'm being the go-to guy they call on to go help other stores, open up new stores, taking a store in the hood that was getting ready to close and really, make it a profitable store. I wanted to do more. I wanted to be an area supervisor. I didn't want to be in one box. I wanted to overlook the 10 boxes, right?
Yeah.
And she says, I waited 25 years for my opportunity. You have to wait for yours. And I'm like, what? Mind you, I'm young. I started there as a manager as 19. I already have 8 years in. And I'm like, there's no damn way that I'm spending another 20 years. It was Subway, by the way. So just imagine, okay? I don't want to smell like bread and onions the rest of my life, especially in one Subway. So, I left. And, we've seen so much change happen when that took occur, right? Because from the leadership perspective, and I think they did lose a lot of the values. And I don't know. Dad had kids that now I think are in the business, and maybe son now is actually taking it back, and maybe he witnessed that. I just don't know why that was the decision, but who knows? Maybe life was too good and felt maybe I could take a step back. Because I'm pretty sure that's another problem. Is that another problem that you see here a lot of times, Kristi?
That people feel like it's time to step back, or
Well, they haven't. The money's good, and they feel like, hey, I want to really enjoy this, so I'll let somebody else run the business, my family-owned business.
Yeah.
That then probably doesn't become family-owned anymore.
I mean, I think so. There's a few scenarios. It's interesting when you say that. I my first reaction is I'm much more likely to hear about people who don't want to step back, maybe when they should, maybe when it's time, right?
Yeah.
I think people who are founders and entrepreneurs who are very committed to their companies will often work into their 70s, into their 80s. And, we'll have people who also want opportunities to grow and not really sure how that's going to happen and things like that. So I think it's more likely that people hold on a little too long than they step away too early. But to your point, there are lots of reasons why somebody who's in a leadership role or owning a business would make a different choice. And,
Yeah.
those choices are sometimes challenging. They're complicated. And what we see most often is people who if I have to make a choice, let's say I have to sell the business, let's say I have to step back for a variety of reasons, or, I'm thinking about succession, or, we're going to have to close a plant and that's going to disrupt people. Like those are really difficult decisions oftentimes to make. And so the the families that we see who do that best are the ones who think about all the impacts and the change and how it's going to cascade, across the organization, down the organization, and how to do that with as much grace as they can.
So I'm really going to give you a good question here, okay?
Okay.
I'll just start about this one as well. So as I speak to a lot of nonprofit leaders, especially those that are kind of in the space or even in the healthcare space, but they're talking to those um, they're working in nursing homes. And what I'm hearing is that in a few years, we'll have because of the baby boomers, we'll have way more people over the age, or way more people at the age of 65 than is 18-year-olds or something like that. Do you feel like there's going to be a shift in what that looks like with so many of our baby boomers maybe wanting to retire, not keeping family legacy, or do you think there's going to be a spark there even in your space as well when this is starting to happen?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think the shift in our space is already here. They've been talking for a while. I think over the next 10 years, the volume of businesses that are going to need to be passed on to the next generation, and some of those people are going to some these people are going to send it are going to share it with their kids, right? They're going to find someone from their children or their niece or their nephew or things like that to be the next leader, or they're going to bring in professional management and things like that, or they're going to choose to exit the business because there's not enough energy in the next generation. But there's a huge wave of that happening over the next 10 years, and there's opportunities with that, and then there's also threats with that. The opportunity is knowing what's happening in all of these industries and all of the change that's going to be happening in those organizations. Like, how do you come out on top? And that's just a really kind of interesting question, looking
Yeah.
at your competitive landscape and what the changes are going to be. The threat then is, not managing whatever that transition is going to be well, and harming the business, or leaving value on the table if that's what you want to do. So there's a ton of that. And then, but we're also seeing, when we think about like multi-generational, I mean, we work with multi-generational families, right? So a lot of what we do is helping people who are, baby boomers and sometimes a little older engage with their Gen X, millennial, Gen Z family members. When we look at like the millennials and the Gen Zs, those are pretty decent size cohorts that are coming
Yeah.
up with a very different sense of work and what that means. And so the other thing that we see a lot in the family dynamics around these things is, if you've been running a business for a very long time, and the way that you've built the business is that day in, day out grind, 12, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week for years and years and years, the younger generations are going to have a little different sense of how much of themselves they want to commit to work. And that doesn't make it wrong, but it is different. And so having those conversations within families about, like, if you want to be part of this business, this is what it takes. But also acknowledging that they're in a different place in their life, and can contribute in different ways at different times. So I think the whole, the generational transition piece is so fascinating, both from the business transitions and then just thinking about, the workforce of tomorrow. And if you're in family business, some of those workers are going to be your family members. And I find it so interesting because family businesses often exist in part because they want to create better lives for their family members, and then they're
Yeah.
trying to wrangle with how to both give everything that they want to their children, and make them, help them to live their potential through good work ethic and commitment and dedication and taking on leadership roles and things like that. It's just a fascinating dynamic to watch.
When you mentioned about just different times, and I feel that we're in a space where we have more entrepreneurs than we've ever actually seen, right? Which is why a lot of these spaces are looking for people, because during a pandemic, people realize their worth, it looks like. So that they're out there doing their own things. Maybe they have joined back in with their families on some of these businesses.
Yeah.
But I'm also seeing like it's so easy for some of these businesses to really make changes with a little bit of innovation. Is that what you're seeing? Are you seeing the growth there as well, while we're having a lot of millennials kind of, being creative and want to be their own boss? Are you seeing actually more millennials getting into family businesses?
Yeah. So it's, I think a couple things that we see. One is that more and more younger family members who come out of family businesses are coming to the conclusion that working in their family business is actually a really great opportunity. That they have not only the opportunity to perhaps have roles and contribute in ways that they may not have gotten in an organization where they're just another employee number in a really large company, but also that then they get the extra bonus of being able to work side by side with their parents or their siblings or their cousins. So a lot of younger folks are seeing it as a really attractive career path in ways that maybe 10 years ago, again, if you think about what we're told about what success looks like and things like that, that idea of going to work for the big multinational public company and the cachet and so on and so forth that comes with those sorts of jobs, or starting things up yourself and the scrappiness and so on and so forth that comes with that. The working in the family business, I think, is becoming more and more attractive. And, as relates to the innovation, that's one of those places where when we're trying to build bridges between the founders and the leaders of today and the leaders and contributors of tomorrow, where innovation is a place where younger folks can really contribute. You hear about it in sort of multi-generational workplace conversations about sort of upward mentoring or mentoring people who are older than you, and the ability to help people understand technology and AI and all of these things that are emerging and how they can impact the business. That's a real way for younger folks to build credibility and to make a contribution because they're more naturally oriented and just sort of more immersed in those new technologies.
It was the coolest thing that I think I've ever done. It was actually right before I got on with you. I've taken over the board, right? It's a very older generation of people on the board. They probably got me beat by 20, 30 years, right? So I'm having a challenge here. How do you actually add AI when people are not using AI? So we have scholarships coming up, and she had to write a brief 30-second to a minute on each student based off, the essay they wrote and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And she was already doing it, but she told me she was doing it yesterday. I said, hey, can you jump on a call? I would love to show you what ChatGPT can actually do for you. And she's like, oh, okay. She already had the whole, robot thing. So today I get on and I said, hey, did you already write one? And she said, yeah. And I said, okay, well, give me that person that you wrote. So I said, I'm teaching her about ChatGPT. It's about how you prompt it. It's what you ask is what's going to give you. So make sure that you're asking the right questions. So what is it that you're trying to get out of these, stories? So she's telling me, and I'm typing it in for her. And then I said, okay, I already had everything in folders, so it's easy for her to just copy and paste.
Yeah.
So, hey, look, this is the copy. This is, okay, we're going to copy these two. The essay, I think it was a recommendation letter. I paste it. And just like that, she's seeing it live time because, I'm sharing my screen. And she's like, and I read it to her. And she's like, wow. That was good. I said, yeah, watch this. I'm going to delete all the data I gave it, but keep that prompt. And then, I pasted the next ones. And then same thing. And she's like, well, the second one, she's like, I hope you're saving these. So I said, look how cool this is. And then I said, you can, because I'm still in that same little prompt, I can just go back and they're all here. And all you got to do is copy, paste. It'll save you time. She's like in her early 70s. I said, I want to be able to buy you back your time so you can enjoy your life. I don't want you to sit here. I mean, if you want to, kudos to you.
Yeah.
But I don't think you really do. And she was just in awe.
Yeah.
So I'm telling her, hey, how this could be really helpful and beneficial to the organization. And she's like, no, yeah, I agree. So to have her on board, I'm like, yes, because sometimes they do want to learn, but no one is teaching them. No one takes the time to teach them. So kind of to what you were saying, right? Mentoring up at times, not for the wrong reasons, but just to kind of realize that we are in a different generation. Technology looks a little bit different. But I want to ask you, just thinking from, let's say, father-son perspective, dad has really started something, and now it's maybe time for son to kind of fill those shoes. Are you seeing some shifts there at times, maybe where dad is not ready, but he should be ready? What does that actually look like? And what are some of those conversations? And how do you even provide advice at that point?
Yeah. So there are a lot of metaphors about that. People talk about passing the baton. And I always think about it as a little bit of a dance. When you've got an identified successor, and when it's your child in particular, I think that there's like everyone wants that to go really well, right? And the parent who has spent so much time developing their child to be ready for the opportunities that the world brings to them, they want them to be able to step up and take things on and be successful. And yet at the same time, nobody's quite sure how to do it. What we find is, the current leader often, isn't really sure if their kid is ready, would feel more comfortable giving them a little bit of responsibility at a time, isn't really ready to let go of the pieces that they have most loved about their job. And very frankly, a lot of people who are entrepreneurs and leaders, a lot of their identity is in their business and in their career. And they're the person who has led the organization and parked in the nice parking spot and sat in the corner office and had all the relationships with the clients and the vendors and goes to the ribbon cuttings and so on and so forth. And a lot of them haven't really thought that much about what they're going to do afterwards, or really fully envisioned what it's going to look like when their successor is super successful. And so there can be some resistance, and sometimes people who really want for it to work really well are kind of undermining things without even recognizing it, because they're not communicating about the things that they're feeling. They're coming across, they're getting little looks on their face that suggest that they don't really agree, or they're not really sure, and things like that slow down the ability. And then oftentimes the kid who's usually at that point is a full-grown adult and very capable, right? But they want to respect their parent, right? So they don't want to overstep. They don't want to ask for more than that person is ready to give them. And they're sensitive to those little reactions that they're getting that will signal to them that they're either doing it right or not, or doing it wrong, or that it's going well or it's going poorly. And so sometimes what it really takes is just, two things: a very explicit plan that says, here's what succession is going to look like. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to happen over the next year or 2 years or 3 years. And we're going to look at it each quarter. We're going to make goals that says, like, this quarter, this is what you're going to take on. This is the relationships I'm going to pass on to you, and things like that. And there's going to be a timeline. We're going to say, my target retirement is 3 years out. Just putting a target retirement date out in the universe, like everybody's energy starts to steer towards working towards that goal. And it gives people permission to say, like, we're working towards this shared project of allowing you to move to your next career chapter and allowing me to take on the role by this date. So let's all move towards it together, right? And the other piece there is a lot of communication, because people worry about the way that it's going to impact their personal relationships with their families. And, there are a lot of people who are very successful business leaders who maybe aren't naturally gifted at having heart-to-hearts with their family members. Like, it's just maybe not how they're wired. And so figuring out, like, how are we going to talk about this stuff when it comes up? And that's, we work to help facilitate those things. That's part of the reason oftentimes people will work with us, is because we'll create the process in the space that says, okay, what is it that you guys want to do together? How will we know that we're successful? And let's just make sure we keep having the conversations and checking in and adjusting as we go, because that can be a lot more comfortable than trying to figure it out and just like dealing with those feelings of discomfort, but not actually acting on them and improving the situation.
So when you think about, I'm such a mindset person, right? And what we tell people really sparks that mindset shift. If you had to talk to son, you had to talk to dad, and you think about some words of advice for both parties, what does that sound like for dad and son? To just kind of think a little bit differently during the time of transition.
Yeah. For dad, I think it's the transition for you as a human being, as a person, is going to be hard, and just acknowledging that and being aware of that is important. Having something to move towards is helpful. So, people often envision themselves playing golf or whatever it is that they're going to do, and that's going to last you 3 months or 6 months, and then you're going to be bored to tears. And then you're probably going to be dabbling back in the business and driving your son crazy, right? So having something to move towards. Is there a charity that you're passionate about? Do you want to move into coaching and mentoring, or whatever that's going to look like, and start taking concrete actions to move towards that thing? That will help. And then get really clear in your head about what success looks like and how you will know if your successor is being successful. Like, what are the markers? Like, well, the company's performing well and the executive team says, whoever that works for that person is saying that they're enjoying the process, and the clients aren't calling you freaking out because they don't know what this person is doing. Like, those are indicators of success. And then it's very, very common for your child to be much more prepared and aligned with what you want than and you won't know that until you start seeing them live that role. And so allow space for you to build confidence over time. And then I would say for the next generation, patience is really important. Empathy, I think having empathy for that person's position and the change that they're going through, right? And surrounding yourself with good advice and counsel outside of your family and outside of the people who've been aligned with your dad. Get yourself an executive coach, get yourself, join a peer group, get yourself people around you who can be your people and help you think about how to navigate that transition well. And then just give yourself permission to be the kind of leader that you want to be, because very, very frequently, the person who's stepping into the role is going to bring something different to the table that the business will benefit from and need, but it's not going to look exactly the way their parents did it, and that will be uncomfortable at times, but also really can give you the opportunity to help take things to the next level.
I don't know about you, but this has been a really good conversation. I'm having a lot of fun just sitting here like, wow, this is some good information. And I can imagine you deal with this time and time again, so it's easy for you to talk on. But those are experiences that people are experiencing, I could imagine, right? You talked about how this is very, when family-owned businesses, such a part of our world here, we got to talk to this level. Right, because this is really where it's probably happening right now. We're going to see a lot of this happening, transitioning over. So I felt that there was some good advice. How long have you said you've been in this space as a whole?
13 years with the company, and you're right. I mean, I am inspired every day by the families that we work with. They're thoughtful, they're committed, they're fantastic human beings, and they're working through it the best way they know how. And it's a wonderful opportunity to partner with them. So it's been fun to share a little bit of what we see from our end of things, and hopefully other family businesses will hear about it themselves and it's something that sounds familiar that they can learn from.
I ask you on AI, because when I speak to these leaders, that we're all on some sort of side of AI, whether it's like, hell no, it's taking jobs, or maybe you're in the middle and you're thinking like, oh, actually, I'm using Copilot, or maybe you're excited about what it really does for organizations like yours. Are you guys in that AI space at all? What did you guys think about AI?
Yeah, it's going to be such an incredible tool, right? So I think about it in terms of our mission as a company, and our mission as a company is to help provide, the best resources and counsel for family-owned businesses. And over the last 30 years, we've published, 50 books and thousands of articles. It's a ton of information. So as I see AI, there's a couple things that are on my mind. One is, for us, client confidentiality is paramount, and so we have some pretty strong boundaries around what we're willing to do with AI models that train on your information. We don't want for anything that's confidential to be sort of leaked out into the ecosystem. So that's an operating principle for us. And then I'm trying to think about, how do we use AI to help us augment and magnify the impact that all of the learning from working with 3,200 some families over the last 30 years, like that's a lot of knowledge, that's a lot of experience. So how do we use that to kind of repurpose our information in new ways that families can engage with, to make it more accessible to our consultants who are working with families, so that they can bring the sort of very best information to their clients. But to your point, like, people have different feelings about it. I think the other thing that we're thinking about is how to be explicit about AI use in our client relationships. And so we have some families who are super excited about AI as a tool and are using AI to help them frame family conversations and write family policies and things like that. And then we have other families who would similarly feel like, no, this is not a place in our world that we want AI to play. And so helping them also to think about those technological choices in their businesses and how they're going to make them and how it aligns with their values is another place that I think we're exploring.
Kristi, You've been giving me some good information. We got to start wrapping this up. But if someone's listening right now, whether they run a family biz or maybe they just care about legacy, where should they start today?
Yeah. Well, you can find us where it's the Family Business Consulting Group. The website is FBCG.com. So the Family Business Consulting Group.com. As I said, we've got 50 books and thousands of articles on pretty much anything that you want from family businesses. Search in the search bar for things like succession or ownership or next generation or pretty much any problem that you can think of. There's something there for you. You can reach us out and find us there. We also have videos on YouTube and things like that. You can find all of our social links there. A lot of what we do is free information to help family businesses not feel so alone and understand the challenges that they might be facing. So we hope that people will get out there and take advantage of some of that.
And just to kind of give a little bit more insight on what it is, you talk about the articles, you talk about some of these videos as well, and some of the resources you guys provide. Is this free to anyone that just goes to the website? Can they get on, is it a newsletter that comes out once a month? Like, let's really talk about it so those that may want to know more really get to know what the website brings.
Yeah. So free resources include thousands of articles, webinar recordings, and we do have newsletters, which include once monthly article on sort of the most common dynamics in family business. We also have articles for people who advise family businesses who want to think about how do we bring our skills together to help families succeed. So you can subscribe to the newsletter. I think it's right in the footer of the website. The books are available at your major booksellers on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, things like that. But you'll see a landing page for all the book information. We have books on what it's like to be in business with your siblings, family business succession, board development, family councils, which is a way that some families organize around their family activities. So those are available for purchase. And then obviously we're a consulting firm. And if you think that you need some help, you want somebody to help facilitate family conversations, there's a button on the website you can hit, which will say contact us or start a conversation. And we'd be happy to talk to you about what you're experiencing.
I love it. I appreciate it. So is this time, I don't know if you've seen any of the other episodes or you remember that I said there is a blind question at the end of each podcast. Yeah. So it's that time. You're in the hot seat. If I gave you a time machine and you can actually go back and whisper one truth to yourself before you first ever leadership role, what would you actually say and would you even believe it?
That's an interesting question. Time machine. I think I would say keep going. I think in any leadership journey, there are times where you feel like you're on top of the world, and there are times where, you really feel like you've got a big hill yet to climb ahead of you. And no matter where you get into your career, there will be a new hill that manifests in front of you that you need to climb. And so I think what I most would have wanted to hear at that point is encouragement that the hill that's ahead of me is something that I can do, and the next one and the next one. And I think that's good advice for anybody.
And then would young Kristi actually believe it? Let's go back to 18. Let's go back to like 16, 17. We're leaving high school. We think we're grown. Is she believing this?
I think probably, because I think probably I wouldn't have gotten to where I've gotten in my career if that wasn't in me somewhere. Sometimes you need a little extra kick. But I think underneath there, like I would know that was true and that I have the capability to do that. And I know the people who are listening to you are in the same spot, or else they wouldn't be here trying to learn and develop themselves as well.
I agree. Well, Kristi, that's it. That was a mic drop right there. We thank you guys for watching. This has been the Hart and Hustle podcast alongside Kristi. Make sure you guys go follow the website. Get those resources if you guys are in the same situation, especially as a small family business, okay? We talked about it. The statistics are high. We know this is for you. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys in the next episode. Bye.